Welcome to Women in Paint. Whether your paint story is dripless or an old school mix of project management, business ownership, or modern estimation, the stories of women in paint are now part of the industry's rising success. We'll educate, encourage, and promote diversity and gender equality by giving you a behind the scenes look at our proven skills, business acumen, and driving force that propels anyone to find meaningful opportunities and a career path that challenges lives through paint. Now let's welcome your host, Michael Cheney.
Welcome to the show. I am Michael Cheney, owner of No Drip Painting, where we are changing lives through paint. And I got to tell you, I'm excited to talk to Juan. You guys have probably seen him around, but Juan Vasquez, the owner of Illusions Inc. Juan, thank you so much for joining me and welcome to the show.
Awesome. No, thank you so much for having me. This is a pleasure. Thank you so much. Like you say, my name is Juan Vasquez and very happy to be here.
Awesome. So listen, how did you get into the painting business? I know it's one of the questions I always get. You tell me, how did painting become your thing?
Oh God, by accident, of course. No, well, not by accident. It was just a necessity. It was a job that was offered to me when I was 16 years old. I was having a baby, so I needed a job, and my neighbor was a painter. So, of course, I ended up going to work with him when I was 16 years old. Fast forward about, 27 years after, 28 years after, here we are. That's all I've known that's ever worked. All I know is painting. So,
yeah. So painting is your jam. And you started when you were 16 out of necessity. 20. That means you have probably a 27-year-old. Is that right?
I have a 26-year-old, correct.
26-year-old. So young father, I have to imagine that created some challenges in life. What how would you kind of explain that now as an adult with a business with a 26-year-old? What was that like being, a father at such a young age?
Oh God. I think it was tough, so that's why I don't even like to remember anymore. Those are the things that you just kind of leave behind,
Right.
But so thank God I made it,
Right.
Well,
That's right.
it is hard, and I think it resembles what our industry is. I think that, and because it's not like we get intentional become a painter. We're not like go to school to become a painter. It was something that was land on me. It was my neighbor was a painter, and so it was tough being a teenager and going to work and being in a place that it requires for you to learn. It requires for you to. It's not like a fast food joint that you just kind of show up for a couple hours and you kind of play and kind of do whatever it is. This was more of a structured job. You had to be on ladders. You had to learn. By the time I was 18 years old, I was running crews for my boss, but it wasn't that I was the great painter. It was just that I can communicate the Spanish and the English, crews and connect them. So I was that connection. So that was actually a blessing for me.
Yeah.
But it was tough. It's tough at a 17, 18, 19-year-old kid to take that responsibility. So, but having a child and having the bills and having the responsibility, I think that just kind of pushes you to do it. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, it was tough. It was time. It was a lot of learning and a lot of mistakes. But I guess for me, painting was always a job. It wasn't anything else. It was just a job to pay for my bills for a very long time.
So you're originally from Mexico.
Yes.
How did you learn English?
Oh, so I was brought here by my parents when I was 12 years old. We moved to California. Like I said, I was 12 years old. I went to elementary in Mexico, so I went all the way to sixth grade in Mexico. When we got to California, I went to middle school, so I have 2 years of middle school, and then I attended freshman and sophomore in high school, and that was it. That's all my formal education in this country. So uh, I don't know. I mean, I think that I was young enough to pick up the language.
Right.
I still have a hard time. I can communicate myself very well, but I have a very hard time articulating things and like writing, contests, putting things together. That is very tough because well, I mean, once I left school, I never came back. So, yeah, I didn't get the
Sure.
proper, knowledge in that department.
Yeah.
So,
When you were in Mexico, did you learn English in school at
n-
all? No.
not
Okay.
at all. No.
And
Now,
I know we
Mexico,
were
yeah,
I know we were talking before I hit the record button and you said you were from Oaxaca,
yeah.
which Oaxaca, I've had painters from Oaxaca, and the thing about Oaxaca that stands out to me is the artwork. I travel to Mexico often. I was fortunate enough to spend about 12 weeks in Mexico last year.
Oh,
But
nice.
yeah, but I was over in the like Tulum, Playa del Carmen area, a little further away from Oaxaca, but even over there, I will see artwork and it's from Oaxaca, and I just love it. But you've come to the United States, you have a baby when you're young, you obviously were good enough at your English, you were bilingual that you could kind of take on a crew leader position at a really young age.
Yes, that's correct.
And what was that like?
Man,
Your
it's been
your
such a
first
long
leader, your
time.
first leadership position,
Oh
where you've got
God,
to give
no, but
direction.
but it was hard. So I think from a young age, I've always been the person that I have the mentality of an entrepreneur. I've always had the mentality of um, creating a team will help you, you know, furthermore in life, or if you create a team, you can go further, and I think that was encouraging me at a very young age, or I was already had that in my mind somehow. I didn't understand it back then,
Right.
but I was the guy. I wasn't so worried about how much I was doing, but more of like, how can I put these guys together and have them help me do what I need to do? And so I think that was something that helped me, because if you have the mentality of the technician, then you can see that,
Yeah.
and some of us have it and some of us develop it within time. But I think I always had that mentality. I just didn't know it. I just kind
Yeah.
of used it and it worked with me. And then at 23 years old, I went and got my license and started doing that. It was because of the mentality that I wanted to create that group. Running a crew, running those guys, I didn't know what I was doing. Like I said, I was a 19-year-old thinking that I was like the best. I was like on top of the world. Like, I'm telling you what to do. I have 4-year old painters, and I'm telling them what to do. And
Yeah.
that was tough. It was tough because they look at you like you're a little kid. What can you tell me? And they're right.
That's right.
It's nothing I could teach them or tell them, but it was my job, to coordinate and to put the team together.
Yeah. And then you made the transition at some point to business owner, which a lot of us do in this industry, right?
Oh
We
yeah.
start out as the painter, we kind of move our way up, and then at some point, I guess we think we can do this on our own. What
Yeah.
was that transition like? You actually used the word technician, which reminds me of the book E-Myth. And so you went from the painter, the crew leader, to eventually your own business. And why'd you take the leap to do that? How'd you believe in yourself enough to take that jump?
Well, it wasn't much believing myself. I mean, it's cool. I should believe more in myself, but I think it was more of there was one thing that I always saw, and I used to live by, was like, I don't want to be 60 pushing a brush.
Mm,
In our industry, we see a lot of that. At least in
yeah,
my area, I've seen a lot of that, where you see painters, they get their license, they become a licensed painter, but they never take the time to grow as a professional, as a business owner. They want to keep growing as a painter. But the problem is that you don't create systems, you don't create anything in your business. You get to 60 on your 60s and you want to sell a business. You thought you had a business, but all you have is the list of clients and knowledge that you just can't pass on to anyone else. Everything is
right.
here. So I came to my boss and I said, hey, I want to do other things in your business. And it's like, no, all I have is here a position for a painter. So with that, I was like, well, I'm going to try it. And, of course, it's like, yeah, go ahead. So long story short, I'm ready to move out. And then he's like, hey, what can I do for you? Can I give you more money? And like I told him, it's not about the money. I have certain things
Right.
that I want to grow and accomplish. And so I moved on from there. I really thought that it was going to go all peaches and it was going to be beautiful. But as you know, as you being a business owner, I was so wrong. God, right?
Yeah, that's the one thing I can certainly agree on with about every business owner.
So, it's like you mentioned, the image. It's like it says that we are frustrated technicians wanting to be the boss, but the problem is that we
Mhm.
don't know how. We're just a bunch of frustrated technicians. So basically, that's where this thing came from. I always thought that I could do more, at least try it. I
Yeah,
have the mentality of like, look, if I try it and I don't succeed, I am gonna be okay because I know I went for it.
that's right.
Okay. But if I don't try, then I will be very upset of myself and I'll probably be mad because I didn't allow myself that opportunity. So that's kind of the motto I always follow. And probably that's why I get into so much stuff lately, just,
Right.
because there's so much out there, and I want to do more. It excites me.
Yeah. No, but I love the way you put that because it really is. It's about taking a chance
A
on
risk.
yourself,
Yeah.
and it is. We know it's risk, it's all these things, but at the end of the day, even when I like have a difficult decision to make, and it usually has to do with, am I going to invest in myself? Am I going to bet on myself here?
Hmm.
I just love when I hear other people say, "Yeah, I bet on myself and it's working out." That's inspiring. What does your business look like today? You're in California.
Hmm.
Kind of give a look at what your business looks like. What kind of work do you do? What does the makeup of your team look like? What do you do in the business? Kind of build that out for us.
Okay, so our business started as illusions painting. It has evolved throughout the years. I've owned illusions since 2007, so I've been in business for almost 18 years now. Um, into 2018, I was introduced to the PC8, and I was always hungry to learn and to
Yeah.
do more, but I was never put in the place to find something like that until I found PC8. When I went to PC8, one of the biggest things that I keep talking about that changed my mind and changed everything the way I see is that I always thought that I had to be the best painter in order
Mhm.
to have a painting business, and
Oh yeah.
that's probably 90% of the painters, right? Or your industry. When I sit at PC8 and I'm looking at a lot of these very successful businesses, something that really bugged my mind was like every business that was there that was successful, the owner was never a painter. To me, that was mind blowing. To me, that was like I looking at this all wrong. It really taught me, it teaches me that we're not painters anymore. We're
Yeah.
business owners. So we gotta really behave like them, learn, because that's something we have to keep doing, keep learning. Just how we learn the new technique, just how we learn to spray, just how we
Mhm.
learn all these things, that's what we need to learn. So that basically in 2018, in 2018, we basically redid our company. We did a 180 and just basically got rid of a lot of things that we were doing. So we started creating systems. We started creating more things. We have more control of things. In the last 5 years or so, we've grown for about 300,000 to about $3.2 million company with around 30 30 painters. Now we do have a project manager. We do have people who do our estimates.
Mhm.
I do have a business partner, which is also my brother-in-law, and because of that, we have been able to take the next step. So basically, our business is getting more systematized as we go.
Yeah.
I can tell you that, oh my God, we're crushing it, we're killing it. I gotta tell you, no, the pressure can come up bigger loads than it did
Mhm.
before. So it's hard to maintain that passion and all of that you have. So
Yeah.
we're running a sustainable business. We're running into a lot of issues constantly because we're constantly growing. Um, we are actually creating a new business where we are going into different aspect of the painting. So now we're a business that we are looking to grow and expand but efficiently, and we can
Mhm.
actually keep track of what we're doing. So that's what illusions is turning into. Myself, God, I think with the PCA, I've got involved with the PCA. I became one of the speakers for the Speaker Bureau, and having the need of this Hispanic person bring this out to them, kind of put me in the spot. And it's a lot. It's some big shoes to to fill. There's a lot of things. So before I can go tell someone something, I feel that I gotta be able to do that. I gotta be
Mhm.
able to show someone that it can be done. And so my biggest thing has been like, how can I grow? How can I be that person that now I can go in and try to encourage someone else to do?
Yeah.
Because of that, I'm involved with the PCA, with the Speakers Bureau. I travel the states, talking about you know, my story and how I got where I'm at, because there's a lot of people who can relate to me. And then the other part is like now with the PCA en Español, like now creating a place for these contractors to meet or to feel part of them, just like how you're
Mhm.
doing with the women in paint. And
Right.
we're living in a time right now in the industry that is really exciting, because there's so many things going on. 5 years ago, none of this was a
Mhm.
thing. So that's the exciting part, and that's kind of where we are right now with the company and myself.
That's amazing. I mean, you've touched on so many great things, but what I'll kind of focus in on are some of the things that you said about the PCA, because uh, you're right. I mean, 5 years ago, the even PCA doesn't look like it does today. There's so much
Mhm.
opportunity. There's so much learning. There's so much connection that's being made, and the PCA has an invested interest in our Spanish speakers, as they should. Right? It's
Yeah.
about time, right? Same with women in paint. What's about time?
Yeah.
What took everyone so long? But we're here, and that's amazing. So uh, you're heading up the Espanol event,
Yeah.
and let's talk a little bit about that. I had told you about 98% of my painters speak Spanish. I have a handful of bilingual folks in there. But I've always well, I'll say this. I grew up with a mom who was an ESL teacher. And so that's
Mm.
English as a second language. So growing up, I was fortunate enough to be around a lot of folks from different parts of the world because of my mom's job. There was a
Mm.
time when she had a lot of students from Cambodia. And so they would invite us to the Buddhist temples, and we'd go to the Buddhist temples. And of course, she's had lots of kids from Mexico and El Salvador and Honduras and all of the Spanish speaking countries. And so I think, fortunately for me, I got exposed to a variety of different people very young. And I think that just created, a piece of me that really wants to pull for the underdog, right? And just
Yeah.
really, really wants to see people succeed. And so even in my business, we teach English. We offer free English classes for my
Nice.
Spanish speaking folks and their family. And so I know that this piece of the puzzle in the painting industry, providing content in Spanish is huge for you. Kind of talk about that. Talk about what the need is. Where has like the miss been? And now that the PCA is supporting our Spanish speakers in a more united way, kind of talk about what that means to you, and how we can really help elevate the Spanish speaking community within our industry.
Yeah. Well, I think more than anything, you touched on the women in paint, and then the Hispanic community. I think it's more understanding the community. Like the painting and the industry itself is the same, you know. But I think for us in the Hispanic community is more our culture. It's understanding the culture and the person so much more than just the business part, because the business part is going to be universal, right? But it is, how do I approach my Hispanic community? Like how do I, some of our, I mean, English sessions I've been into, or maybe on that side of the industry, it has been way more advanced. So in our Hispanic community, it's actually kind of stayed behind. So it has to come more from the mentality part of it as opposed to the number side of it yet, because there's so much need on that you can't do it, like the motivational part, the
Mm,
mental part, because in our community, Hispanic community, we don't feel that we are capable of doing those things, or we've been told those things, or we've put those things in ourselves to be like, nah,
right.
I'm just the painter, I'm just this. But when you sit there, and something that I speak mainly, or something that's very close to me, is mentality, because that's what happened to me. You know, I was able to shift that mentality, because you can have a lot of great things coming to you, but if you're not at that mental stage, you're not going to do anything with them, and that's
Yeah.
where it comes down to. So, but once we shift that mentality of say, hey, yeah, no, we are business owners. Yeah, you're a painter, but we are business owners. Guess what? You know Spanish and English. God,
Hmm.
you're ahead of the game.
That's
you know
right.
so it's creating that mentality. Once you get that mentality, okay, now we incorporate, this is the systems, CRMs, create all these things, but it's first attacking that.
Yeah, you know
So
what,
that's
Juan,
what I
you're
mean.
right. And I just want to tell a quick story. So, I have a split model with employees and subcontractors. And one of my subcontractors, lately he's kind of expanding his team. So he has less oversight on his
Mhm.
projects.
Of
We've
course.
let him now use two teams, which, uh, you know, less oversight. We get that. But now he's struggling with some management things, right? And he's coming to
Mhm.
us and saying, "Hey, I don't think you guys priced this job right. We need more money." And our approach is to let's work together and like let's figure out why is this. Do you
Yeah.
really need more money, or did we goof up the estimate? We didn't charge enough. Are there some efficiency things happening? What's happening? But the part of the story that I want to tell you is that through having this conversation, what we revealed was that Oscar, the owner of the sub team, he needs to now think like a business owner, right?
Yeah.
He's expanding his team. He's not always on the project. Now he's managing. Now he's paying people,
Mhm.
right? He's tracking hours for more people. He's doing all these things. And so that's kind of where the conversation went. And what he said to me, Oscar's from Guatemala, by the way, and
Okay.
his English isn't super strong. I have a translator I bring in so that we can have very thorough conversations. Until, of course, I can just have those conversations myself since I'm working on my Spanish. But what was revealed was that Oscar said that he can't really write very well or read very well in Spanish. So I want to set the stage here that in his own language, he can't read or write very well, and it's because he didn't get the opportunity to go to school
Yeah.
in his where he's from and in his community. He had other things he had to do besides go to school, right? But what that has created for him was exactly what you're talking about. It's the disbelief that he can be a business owner. So this
That's correct.
conversation that started out as a pricing conversation actually turned into us finding out that he didn't really think he could do it. And
Yeah.
I mean, it just hit my heart, right? But it's exactly what you're talking about. It's really helping someone see their full potential and
Yeah.
really helping them remove the lid off their potential. And so, now we want to help Oscar figure
Yeah.
out in a way that works for him how to manage this team he's putting together and how to shift his thinking from the painter to now I have a bigger role and you can do it. But you're right about this idea that it starts with this belief in yourself. And we all have self-doubt, but
Hmm.
what you're basically saying is that there's a deeper cultural piece here
Yes.
that impacts this self-doubt in a way that, maybe I or other folks on my team can't quite understand.
Yes, that is very true. And
So,
because it is a culture thing.
yeah. So what can someone like me do to help kind of raise the bar, challenge folks, but also be sensitive to the fact that, man, this is much deeper than just,
Well,
at first
you're
glance.
doing it. You're doing it. Something that sticks out to me that you just said, and then you keep saying, is like you are investing in yourself, to learn the language because you understand how important it is to communicate in a different level. I'm pretty sure you can communicate through a translator or quick conversations, but when you understand that you're the business owner and you need to put this and you have to create this culture, that's what you're doing. That you're showing your crews that you are willing to, this is important enough for you to take care of this. So
Right.
when you do that, now they're going to be more open to you, just like how he did just now, because now he's like, oh wow, maybe I can talk to you now. You're not just about the numbers and this and
Yeah.
this and that. So it is coming to, it's not, and believe it or not, I think we have the same issue here at work sometimes. It's just we want to hit the numbers, but then we realize that, okay, what's behind this? Like, why
Yeah.
is this not getting done? And I think, sometimes we forget that us business owners have already done a lot of growing. These painters, these guys haven't.
Yeah.
So we need to, so that's why it's so hard to be a business owner, and especially when you have to deal with human beings, you know,
Yeah.
because
Well, and I think it's important to note that we have access to this information that helps us grow. And
yes,
in part, just because we speak English.
yeah. And so right now we have, that's kind of what we have in the issue right now on our this event that we're growing, is because there's not a lot of people who can do any coaching or
Right.
anything in Spanish. We do have plenty of them in English, and actually, I think as an industry, we should have more.
Yeah.
There's industries who have way more, who have been, systematized and professionalized for so long that they're in such a better way. I think the painting industry is in that shift. It is doing that movement right now, and it is great to understand that over 65%, I believe, of our workforce out there is Hispanic.
Hmm.
So, as we move in this, we have to understand that this is the force that moves the industry.
That's
So
right.
we have to understand those, their character, because whoever understands it better is whoever's going to do better in their business.
That's
I
right.
mean, that's the way I look at it. It's just like women in paint. Now we employ 4 women in our company. Before we didn't, and we saw like, how can we do that? Oh my God! If I tell you, I'm not, my my men are gonna get mad at me, and they're gonna be like, how can you say that? I had to tell you, I've had some of the best experience with the women that come into our business. They're
That's
so more
awesome.
detailed, they're so more thorough. My
Yeah.
guys are constantly like, "Blah, blah, blah, blah." My girls are so focused. I'm like, guys, I want to hire more girls now, you
Yeah.
know? So,
It's true. I mean, I'll tell you what, there was a time when I had a lot of female painters and a lot of them were just single moms. And I'll tell you
mhm,
what, you want
they're hard
someone to
workers.
work for you? Yeah, single moms will come in and work because they have a real strong reason behind what they're doing. But I love to hear that you've got 4 women on the team. I love that. So I think it's interesting. You're saying that even for the PCA Espanol event, you're having a hard time finding folks that can actually come and present because of the language barrier.
Yeah. Yeah, we still do. I think it's gonna. I think this is gonna have a big shift in the next couple of years.
Yes,
But right now, we're at the very, introductory time. Like, we're
that's
just
right.
at the entrance. We're just kind of putting our foot inside the door. But this is gonna open our door to a lot more things and a lot more possibility. And this is gonna help us grow, not just the
Yeah.
Hispanic, but like I said, it is a big group. And having the women, and then and then the Hispanics, and then uniting, because that's just something we didn't want to do. At first we talked about like, well, how can we have a separation, or how can we do this for the Hispanic? I'm like, no,
Mhm.
we calling this PCA in Espanol, like just like HBO. HBO has its regular things and the regular program, and then it has HBO in Espanol, which is the same
That's right.
content. Now we're gonna give it in Spanish.
That's
So
right.
that's kind of what we want. We want to incorporate ourselves to the PCA and everything that brings into it, because I'm a believer. I'm not just a believer, but I'm a very great testimonial that it is helpful. And if you use the tools correctly, you
You
can
can be
succeed.
successful. Absolutely.
You can
Well,
succeed.
listen, I have to tell you, because I'm a big believer in you put something in the universe and that's how it comes to fruition. I have
That's
I
right.
have this thing I call it a life list. And on this life list, I have that I want someday to be able to do a full presentation in Spanish. So maybe someday I'll be speaking at the Espanol event. But I got
Let's
to
put
put
a
it out
date. Let's
there.
put a date at it.
I
Let's
got
put
to
a
put
date
it
at
out
it.
there. And now you can be someone that holds me accountable.
Oh,
Um,
good. I'm going to.
okay. So listen, I told you the time would fly and we've got a
Yes.
few more minutes. Um, here's what I want to ask you. For someone like me who hires a lot of Spanish speaking folks, I know, I've got others in the industry, same thing you just said, the industry is made up of about 60% plus Spanish speakers. Any suggestions or anything about hiring? How should someone like me who hasn't perfected Spanish yet, any tips on hiring? How do we work around the language barrier? Anything you can share with me on that?
God, that's a tough one. Even for me,
Yeah.
I mean, I can communicate with them, but it is, I think, more than, I mean, the hiring part is not so much about the language, but the culture. Like,
Yeah.
where do these guys, how is it that they work? Because when we bring someone, like, not just Hispanic, but like in this case, we bring women into our
Hmm.
business, it's different than what we're used to.
Yes.
So I guess we have to really do as business owners, we have to do our homework and try to understand a little bit more of who we're hiring and what
Yeah.
is the role of this person. If you're hiring someone like a painter, most likely you're gonna get a Hispanic that doesn't care much about the language, but he's a hard worker person, a
Right.
hardworking person. Just like you said about a single mom. The
Right.
problem is that this guy is gonna be limited to how much he's just going to be able to work, but he cannot probably grow in your business because the language barrier. Same thing with your women in paint, like, she will come in, she will be a hard worker, but she's limited on the time because now she has to go home and take care of the kids.
Hmm.
So I think more is like we have to look at our organization and see, are we ready to do this? Like,
Yeah.
what is it that we're in bringing to them? I've started learning. I started listening to books, and I listened to one that said, I think it's the 5 languages or 5 different languages of love,
Yeah.
and it just talks about how we're not all just moved by money. We all
That's right.
have different needs. So for us, it's understanding that need, is really finding that, and then now we go, but we have to find that out. What is it that these people are looking for? We do our homework, just how we look for the ideal client. That's how we have to look for the ideal, um, you know, hiree person that's going to work for me. And so for me, like I said again, if you have Hispanics in your organization, try to know what is it that they work for them.
Yeah.
We we do meetings. We do constant meetings, and on those meetings, we try to be very like proactive, but at the same time, we want to bring like tamales or food because we know that kind of unites us. So it's
That's
those
right.
little things that we do that will bring you. So I guess I'm sorry if I'm not correctly maybe answering the question, but it is more like, what can we do to attract that?
No, you are doing great. And I want to come to one of your meetings because tamales are one of my favorites. Let
Right.
me just say, I'll tell you a few things that we do, but here's something you said that I think is very important that is going to be one of my takeaways here is that you've got to make sure that your business is ready for the language barrier, right? And kind of I'll tell you some things that we do that have worked well. We do quarterly trainings with Sherwin-Williams on the products. We use the same products over and over again, but we want to be experts in those products. Anytime we do a training, it's a bilingual training. I ask Sherwin-Williams to bring someone in that also speaks Spanish. So, part of what we want to do is include people, right? So I'm not going to do a training for my team only in English. We just can't do that. I quite honestly think it's disrespectful. So we make sure that our trainings are done in English and Spanish, and that includes all the documentation. It's very easy, especially if you partner with like a Sherwin-Williams or a PPG. They have access to those things. They can print out all of their things in Spanish. So, that's one thing that we do. And then, I already mentioned kind of the English classes and things like that, but, and then we'll have Graco come in and do sprayer training. Well, I make sure that we've always got someone there who's bilingual, who can translate. And so I would just say, my experience, and one relatively easy thing that someone can do is just make sure you have someone, even if you have to hire them from the outside, to come in and translate. And then, the other thing that we have is we have all of our SOPs in Spanish. We have the English version, we have the Spanish version, and it works great. And I feel like that's how it should be, right? So those are just a few tips maybe that other folks can use.
Let me add one more thing that has really worked for us.
Do.
One thing is, do you record any of these trainings?
So another little thing we do. So to answer your question, do we 100% record those trainings? No, but what we will do is we will do quick little minute-long trainings, and it might just be on when to use low adhesion tape. We'll do that training in English and Spanish, and then we'll text it out through our Slack channel so everyone can get it. That's about as close as we get to recordings. But I think now you're telling me I need to record those meetings so that we've got it on the books and we can use it again, right?
Because that's what we've done. We've learned that we can have a training, but the problem that we have, our retention is very short, especially people who are out there on the field. So you may have the training in a couple hours, next day, 2 days, you forgot what the training was. So what we do is we just set up a camera and we'll record. We have someone in-house that now helps us, do all that stuff. But I can put those videos on my website. Or I can put it in any kind of place or platform that I want to put on, but I can actually track who goes in there and watches them or listens to them. And now that gives me an indication who is interested,
That's awesome.
But then that's an ongoing. So you don't have to do that again. Once you do one of those trainings, you can repeat it over and over and over again because it's recorded. So that could be a very good tip, for anyone that's doing this, not just for you, but that's something that we've learned, So, and it's not that we do an excellent job, but there's something that we do enough that we've seen a shift. So that's something that all we need is a phone and a little tripod.
I know, it's so easy, right? It's a no-brainer nowadays. So Juan, last but not least, I got one more question for you. I asked this to everyone. The question is, what do you do to take care of yourself so you can keep showing up for your team every day? You can show up for your family. You can keep pouring your heart into the PCA. How do you take care of yourself to set one up for success?
I like exercising. So I like to go to the gym. I'm not very, from time to time, I lose consistency, but the gym is one part for me. The other one is I like to be active. So we always camping, fishing, we hike, we do biking, just being active and being the nature really helps me. I was never a person that loves to be in the office, but now that's my place of work. But the other thing, I think one of the biggest things that I do for myself, I don't know if it's great or not, something that I really keeps me going is all these new challenges that I go after, because there's a lot of tough challenges I go after and I say yes, and then it puts me in a place where I'm like, it challenges me. I love a challenge. Some people don't. I do. And so every time I have a new challenge, it gets me to get the stuff I need to do in order to conquer that challenge. So having those challenges really help me stay sharp.
Do you have an example of a recent challenge you're working towards?
Yeah, so PCA en Español is a very tough challenge. As you may know, putting this together, like we don't know how to put an event together. We don't know how to do this. We did this last year. We put an event over in Florida. We had over 250 people register. We had 150 people showed up, and it was just myself with a couple of the guys. It was something that the PCA wasn't quite ready to do. So it was like, here you do it, and it was great. This is a little more detailed and stuff, but the challenge is tough because
Yeah.
now we have a committee, we have people that need to like put together, and then you have to call people, you have to start looking into sponsorships, and I don't know how to do any of that. But it's
Right.
that challenge that every day I'm waking up, I'm like, how am I going to do that? Like creating the podcast, um, doing like the speeches. I think because now if I go do a speech, it might have worked for me for a year or two, and I was like, okay, I gotta show my evolution now. I gotta encourage these people to do more, because if I'm coming back to the same over and over again, and be
Mhm.
like, it's same old thing. So it's that challenge, that constant challenge of growth that keeps me going, keeps me on my toes.
I think that's a perfect way to end this. We have successfully completed another Women in Paint show. Juan, when is the PCA Espanol event, and where? Can you give us the details real quick?
Yes. So next event, PCA en Español, it is going to be in September 12 and 13, and this is in Anaheim, California. Um, it's a 2-day event. If you guys are familiar with the PCA Expo, we're kind of mimicking that. We have 2 days of speakers, brain melts, networking events. It's still in, this is our first event, so there's still a lot of things that we're moving and creating. Please, if anyone's listening to this, we have sponsorships too. We have scholarships, so you can actually go and fill up a scholarship. We can go to pca.org, right? And
Yep.
then we can go, oh no, yeah, pca.org. And then we can download, from there, we can get the link, and we can actually apply for a scholarship, which is going to give us money to go to that event. So it'll be a free event. So please go there. I know there's still plenty of space available, but just go log on to PCA and see all the information there. So if you're a Hispanic, look at this. If you're a commercial, we have a commercial conference coming. We have the Women in Paint coming up, and is it October, November? When is it?
It's in October. So you're just a
October.
month away. I'm about 2 months
Oh,
away. So I got a
God.
little more time than you do. But we'll drop a link here. We have already
Yes.
we've shared the Espanol stuff on the Women in Paint Facebook page. We'll continue to do that. And if you're someone listening and you speak Spanish, it sounds like there might be some room for some more presenters. If not this year, certainly in the future. So Juan, thank you so much for sharing your story. This was awesome. And just keep doing what you're doing and being an inspiration to all of us. So thanks for joining me.
No, thank you so much for having me.